Hey everybody, welcome to today's show presented by MastersFantasyFootballLeagues.com. I'm your host today, Jonathan. I'm one of the commissioners here at Masters Fantasy Leagues, joined by the owner, John Beast, and also two of our draft coordinators, the Doc, Al. What's up, guys?
How we doing?
Doing great, real great.
Yeah, we're going to be talking everything Week 15. The fantasy playoffs are here. I'm going to be talking about some must starts, some desperation plays. Before we do that, I'd just like to ask these guys, how'd you guys do this weekend?
Did great until Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
and Kareem Hunt really killed me.
This guy got me in one with Lamar Jackson last night. I think I had like a 22-point lead going into last night. Lamar Jackson sure had more than 22.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. Lamar came out. He did exactly what I needed him to do. Then he went back to the locker room.
I know, yeah. Then came back and gave me some more.
And I'm proud to say I started out this year on a mission, and that was to stop this guy from winning 4 in a row.
You got me.
We successfully done that. So
It was close. We put up a lot of fight. No McCaffrey, so asterisk by it, but
Right.
The reign's over,
And
unfortunately.
it's funny going into the game last night. I talked to John earlier, and I'm like, I need 35 points out of Chubb. It's not going to happen.
Oh, I know.
At one point during that game, I got a little nervous.
There was a while there where I thought, you know what, it honestly could happen, and then Chubb there was another point in the second half where he got down to like the 5, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to score again. I actually have a shot. Like, I completely forgot. I thought it was over already, but yeah, it was close. I appreciate the fight out of my team. We'll be back next year better than ever. Looking forward to my next three-peat.
Perfect. Thank God for Kareem Hunt. Kept Chubb off the field.
Yeah.
That helped out a lot. All right, guys, we're going to be looking at some must-start players this week. Obviously, you're going to be starting your studs. Looking at some flex players that you guys think you can't miss on this week.
Sure, I can kick us off with a guy who I say is a must start this week because I had him on the bench in 2 of my leagues last week, and man, I wish I had him in there. That's Cam Akers. We saw the huge breakout game last week. I think he had 29 carries, 170 yards, caught a few passes too. Did not score a touchdown, so his numbers would have been through the roof had he scored a touchdown or two. This week he's going up against the Jets, which their run defense has actually been okay, but we know the Jets haven't won a game. There should be a lot of positive game script. Cam Akers should get a ton of carries, could easily run for 100-plus yards, catch a few passes, find the end zone once or twice. I think he's a big-time play this week as he's finally breaking out in his rookie year.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing we do know, he's fresh.
Yeah.
All the Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson we could take all season. I think it's Cam's time. I actually love that take.
Yeah, I'm on board with it as well. I've already got him in my starting lineup in the league I have him. Looking forward to it.
All right, next guy on the list.
Do you want to go?
You go.
Okay, I'll go because ours are kind of the same. My must start is actually Jeff Wilson Jr., and that might seem a little strange, but Jeff Wilson has made himself the clear number 2 running back in San Francisco. He got the touchdown last week against a tough Washington defense, and Raheem Mostert, who seems to get hurt every single time he's on the field, is banged up again. So I really like the odds of Jeff Wilson against a bad Dallas Cowboys defense to run the ball effectively and be a guy that you could honestly get probably on your waiver wire and plug in and start your flex and be really happy with what he does for you. I just like to play this week, and I know John Beast, this can kind of tie into who he has as well, which I like as well. So I'm going to let him take it from here.
The Dallas Cowboys defense, it can support having two running backs of the same team run against them, as the Cleveland Browns proved when they ran for 308 yards. And I think I'd take the number 1 running back in San Francisco for my must start is Mostert. Just thought that's fine, but I like him better. I think he's faster.
Yeah.
And you got the potential for the long touchdowns. The long touchdowns give you not only give you the touchdown to 6 points, but also gives the 7 points for the run as well. So I like Monster a little bit.
Right, and I also think Debo getting banged up again too kind of helps the run game. They're going to be running the ball a lot, using those running backs a lot. I think it's going to be a big game for both of them.
Just while we're on the topic of San Fran going up against Dallas, throw Ayuk in there as a must start too. He's been on fire, and Dallas' secondary isn't anything impressive either. So start all your 49ers this week. Just throw them all out there.
I like it. Along that line of starting all your 49ers. For me this week, I think you start all your Ravens. I really liked what I saw last night out of Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, and something that they played Jacksonville this week. But something I really like about Lamar Jackson is I think all season, he tried not to run as much, tried to pull the reins back on that a little bit. It's playoff time now. I mean, Baltimore needs to win out to get in the playoffs, and I think that they're going to unleash Lamar Jackson. I think his schedule is great going forward, and I actually love him this week. And most people are probably starting Lamar Jackson, but there's so many quarterbacks that did so good this year. Maybe you picked up a Justin Herbert. There's a lot of other quarterbacks. You would have done a lot better starting than Lamar. I think, now Lamar Jackson, he's back into must-start material for me. Absolutely.
I agree with that. He's 100%.
And J.K. Dobbins, something we talked about last night, going into the game last night, second most yards per carry in the league, only behind Nick Chubb. I don't think he really hurt that last week. I think he's the bell cow in Baltimore. I mean, Gus Edwards did get some carries, but I think it's going to be the J.K. Dobbins show. I'd start both my Ravens, and I'd consider Hollywood Brown. I know he had some drops.
Yeah.
Last night he did come through with the big, game-winning touch. I really like all my Ravens this week in Jacksonville.
I think that's another team where you could start either one of those running backs and get a solid performance out of both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Dobbins got more carries, but he was still good, and Edwards, I mean, he's just an absolute horse. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them against Jacksonville's defense.
Good stuff. All right, anybody else with any must-starts? All right.
Ready to go desperation, please?
Yeah, we're going to move on to our desperation Hail Mary plays. A lot of us limped into the playoffs at 6 and 7. Maybe some injuries, maybe COVID. Maybe you're looking up and down your roster and you need some help. You missed out on the good waiver wire pickups. We're scouring, look for some guys that might be left over to help you get to your fantasy championship. I'll let you go first, Dynasty Al.
I can kick us off. This is a guy who I actually think, whether it's dynasty or redraft, he's just available. He's been around for a little while now and always is decent. But no matter what, he's just always available out there on the waiver wire. And that's Chiefs wide receiver Demarcus Robinson. Obviously, we know Travis Kelce, we know Tyreek Hill, we know Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for just blanked on his name. Demarcus Robinson. He's so forgettable. That's why he's on the waiver wire. But there's just something about him. I mean, Mahomes trusts him. I mean, you watch the Chiefs, and Mahomes throws it his way, and a lot of times he gets those red zone, end zone targets. So he's just a guy who could easily score a couple touchdowns any given Sunday. It's hard to bet on it, so that's why you're not rostering him and starting him most weeks. But as a desperation Hail Mary play, absolutely throw Demarcus Robinson in there. You just want to be attached to these Kansas City Chiefs, and whoever Patrick Mahomes is slinging it to, they've all got value. They're going up against the Saints this week, which, expect like Marshawn Lattimore to be following around Tyreek Hill. So maybe Demarcus Robinson gets some more targets his way. I think he's a good enough Hail Mary desperation start.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great start. Actually, the Saints have a really good defense. With everything that Tyreek Hill and Kelce have done this week, I think we were Sean Payton, you have to find a way to stop those guys. Yeah. You have to, which is going to leave opportunities for the other guys on that team to step up. I think it's a really good spot start this week. Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll throw mine in there, I suppose. My guy, and I talked about him on our Dynasty, pickup show that we just had too. But I'm going with Lynn Bowden in this spot. And, watching the Chiefs-Dolphins game last week, I really liked what I saw out of him. And Jakeem Grant and Devontae Parker, I think they both actually have hamstring injuries. I'm not sure if they're going to play, and if they do, they're not going to be full go most likely. And Lynn Bowden seemed to have some good chemistry with Tua. And as I mentioned on our last show, I mean, he's a very versatile guy. He could get some carries. We saw him throw the ball. I mean, he can do it all. He can get you points in a variety of ways. Also, just side note, it's kind of interesting that they had Lynn Bowden and Malcolm Perry playing receiver, and both those guys were college quarterbacks. I mean, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I think Lynn Bowden's he's poised for a big week again. Tua seemed to trust him, and I mean, he's going to be one of the lead guys to get catches. Everybody else is banged up for them, so I like him. You could plug him in, and I think he's going to put up some good numbers this week.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm actually thinking about the three quarterbacks, dreaming up some really cool wildcat scenarios they could do down there.
They definitely could.
Yeah, good stuff. Any Hail Mary?
I've got a Hail Mary and a must start. The must start is Damian Harris. With Rex Burkhead getting hurt, I'm thinking that Damian Harris, that the Patriots can't pass the ball very much. I think he's getting 10 to 15 touches every week. Look for that to ramp up just a little bit. And he's proven that he just can't catch, or at least there's not much there. He hasn't gotten the end zone money, but he's getting the touches, and he's done 100 yards 3 or 4 times this year.
Yeah. Right.
The desperation play, same team, Sony Michel.
Wow.
That's, and it was once again, it's the guy that has proven that he can score. And with Bill, maybe Damian Harris fumbles. Just maybe that's it. Maybe it's fumbles, and he just said, "Hey, Sony Michel, go get your job back."
25 carries.
25 carries, 3 yards, 400 yards,
Yeah.
3 touchdowns, 175 yards. It could easily happen. Not easily, but good.
When was it? I don't think it was last week, but I think 2 weeks ago. I swear every time, because I had started Damian Harris, and every time they were in the red zone or inside the 5, James White was getting the goal line carry.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot stand what the Patriots do with their running backs as a fantasy owner, but I like those calls by you, John Bees.
I don't want to bring up any bad memories, but I just thought this was crazy. Just picture 3 years ago, you're sitting at 1.03, 1.04 in your rookie draft, taking Sony Michel with confidence, first round pick, and now we're talking about him 3 years later as a desperation play in your fantasy playoffs. Man, that just shows you how these first round draft picks, they can be hits or they can be misses. And I mean, I still think Sony Michel's a talented back, but
he was one of my dynasty stashes.
There were leagues he went 1.01 over Saquon Barkley because people were that excited about the landing spot in New England, but now he's a desperation play 3 years later. A lot of injuries played into that, but yeah.
You ready to throw the talent in N'Keal Harry?
Kinda. I think it was one of our previous shows we talked about the Patriots desperately needing a receiver, and I was thinking, was it the Jamar Chase? If you haven't checked out any of our Dynasty Spotlight shows, check out our Jamar Chase episode that's out there. But you mentioned the Patriots as the perfect landing spot for him. And I immediately, when you said that, it's like they tried to get that guy in N'Keal Harry just a year ago, and that's been a total flop so far.
It has been a flop, but and this year you've got all these receivers: Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb. They're all breaking out. Chase Claypool, T. Higgins. Their talent's breaking out everywhere. But prior to this year, it usually took 3 years for a guy to. I mean, I think it took DeAndre Hopkins took him a couple years to get going. And maybe this is I know this isn't our stash show, but maybe this is somebody you can go get. Maybe he's on the waiver wire. I'm certainly cheap, but
I'd say I haven't seen him dropped in any leagues, but certainly a second, third rounder in the offseason could be enough to get him.
I could see him being like that next Corey Davis kind of guy where he was very highly sought after. Injuries kind of derailed his start, and then quarterback play kind of filled in the gaps for just not the best situation for him. I think he could end up being a good player going forward. I don't think I'm ready to give up on him yet just for that reason. We've seen guys like Corey Davis, make some comebacks.
Yeah, Corey Davis, the perfect example. And then when you look at New England at the quarterback play, I mean, Tom Brady, is down the field targets. He's not, very accurate anymore. I mean, Cam Newton's never been known for his accuracy. I mean, I think it's a guy that clearly, and just like Corey Davis benefited when A.J. Brown kind of took over the one spot there, I think, if they did sign a guy, like Jamar Chase, I think that could, he might slide in as a perfect number 2. He's not a guy I would give up on. He's a guy I'd be looking to go get for a 3rd round pick if he's not on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a really good stash. Okay, and you had actually said 2 running backs in New England. I have 2 kind of desperation plays on my own in Tampa Bay. Ronald Jones, finger surgery, may or may not play this weekend. I think Leonard Fournette will be the obvious pickup there as a desperation play. I'm going back, hi, my name is Slim Shady, LaShawn McCoy. I think he can make a comeback this week as a desperation play in that offense. 2 running backs I'm looking at. I think you can pick up, plug and play if there's no Ronald Jones this week.
I never even thought of McCoy. Has he played at all this year?
Yeah, he just played last week, running the ball with one hand.
Oh yeah, like a loaf of bread.
Yeah, loaf of bread. Just a couple guys. Any other Hail Mary plays?
I don't think so.
All right. Move on to the next part of the show, and I'm going to write this stuff up all week. I'm going to ask these guys some questions. They're going to help clear up your lineups, give you an idea of what they think is going to happen this weekend. Going to start right at the top. We're going more rushing yards, Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts?
I'll say Jalen Hurts.
I would go Jalen Hurts as well.
I'd go Jalen Hurts too. I think that's the easy ones, and Kyler Murray can throw it
Right.
around pretty good.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, going to move on to more rushing yards, Derrick Henry or the field. Will any running back have more rushing yards than Derrick Henry this weekend?
No. I think I started thinking about it today. Derrick Henry is relatively close for his standards to 2,000 rushing yards, and they have a pretty light schedule to finish the season. I think they're going to try as hard as they can to get him to that number, get him that big season. And I mean, they're going to give him that anyways. I mean, he's going to get the ball a ton against bad competition. I like Derrick Henry.
Remember last year when they gave him the ball all those times just to beat out Nick Chubb for the rushing title?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go the field on this one, and I've even got
Who is it?
two guys. So two guys. I'm gonna say a rookie beats him out this week. I'm going Jonathan Taylor or Cam Akers.
Oh.
Jonathan Taylor had 150 yards last week, gets Houston this week.
Ooh,
Cam Akers had 170 yards last week and gets the Jets this week. And I think one of the rookies will unseat Derrick Henry this week.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor was going to be one of my must starts, but I feel like everybody kind of knows that. But coming in the last 2 weeks, I mean, it was really tough to start.
Yeah.
I think he's went from a flex play to a must start this
Yeah,
week. Absolutely, against that Houston defense.
Mm.
Speaking of that Houston defense, we're going to go more receiving yards. T.Y. Hilton versus Houston or Brandon Cooks versus Indy.
T.Y. Hilton, I would think.
I agree, just because T.Y. has really been on a tear recently, and Brandon Cooks has still struggled to stay healthy recently. So I'm going to go T.Y. Hilton as well.
Yeah, I think I agree.
You know, you might want to go look at your waiver wire real quick too, because
Yeah.
I know I picked him up a couple spots last week, and he was still there in
Yeah.
other spots. And I didn't even look. He might be there.
I agree, and another guy I really consider putting in that must start category this week. Him and Phillip Rivers really coming along.
Yeah.
Connection looks good, and I mean T.Y. looks like he's back.
Yeah, I think so.
Good stuff. All right, and now my favorite one of the day. We're going to go more fantasy points this weekend. Lamar Jackson versus Jacksonville or Patrick Mahomes versus New Orleans. And I am keeping tally on this.
All right.
So
I know I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. I'll always take Mahomes over anybody. It doesn't matter how good the other defense is. In fact, however good the other defense is, I think it actually helps him because that's when he's forced to run. And when he's forced to run, they want him to, because he will run when he has to, as opposed to Lamar's always running.
I think I'm going to say Mahomes by a nose as well, just because I think the Ravens are going to try and have Lamar run a little bit less against a bad defense and save him a little bit for that home stretch. He won't need to do as much like he did against the Browns. Don't really see the Jaguars scoring 40 points. So I think Mahomes is going to have to put up a little more of a fight, even though Taysom Hill, but I'm going to go with Mahomes by a hair. That's a close one, though. That's tough.
I'm going to make it 3 in a row, and I'm going to go Mahomes, too. I just think Jacksonville's just one of those teams where it's probably just going to be an uglier, slower-paced game where I know the Saints' defense has been great and Taysom Hill hasn't been everything we wanted. But, I mean, if you could rewind back to the beginning of the year and say, Saints, Chiefs, we would expect that to be a high-scoring game, shootout, a lot of points on the board. So I'm going to go Mahomes.
all right. I'll be the oddball. This is my DFS play where everybody goes this way. I'm going to go this way. Give me Lamar Jackson. I think he's back for the rest of the season. We're going to see his MVP. We're going to see an MVP like Lamar Jackson.
I hope we do.
Me too. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this week 15 show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week, week 16.